Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Success After Trauma. We're bringing back a guest that you have recently seen, Morgan Rockwell. I've worked with Morgan, and she's a practitioner of the Akashic Records. She's incredible at what she does. She has a very healing energy. She has an energy about her that when you get in front of her, when you speak to her, you can understand that she is facilitating your experience. She has removed from it. It is very pure. It is very safe. And by the way, Morgan, thank you for that incredible experience that you shared with me of the Akashic Records. But we're bringing you on today to talk about the 6 aspects of self. Can you give us a little introduction so the listeners understand what are the 6 aspects of self and what are we going to be talking about today?
Absolutely. Thank you for that awesome introduction. I'm so happy to be back here. The 6 aspects of the self are absolutely my favorite way to break down when we get stuck. You know, we've all had situations in our life where things don't go according to plan, or we're rolling along and we're feeling really happy, and then something happens. Maybe we do something that doesn't feel very nice, and we feel like we maybe spoiled it, or we ruined it, or we took, 3 steps forward and 2 step back type of thing.
So Morgan, that doesn't just happen to me.
No.
Oh, yeah, it's everyone.
This is like the most universal thing, right? Like I hear this from everyone. And so the 6 aspects, we'll get into that and I'll break it down even further. We need to look at these various aspects of ourselves to understand why we're doing what we're doing in terms of self-sabotage. And I'm putting that in quotes because it's not that we're fully doing it to ourselves. It's not that we're consciously doing it. Sometimes we are unconsciously doing it. Sometimes it's a bit of both. So when we can to look at where it's really coming from, it can be helpful. So we have the mental aspect of our being. We have the emotional aspect of our being. We have the ego. And the ego has lots of definitions, but the one that I choose to use and work with is that the ego is an aspect of us that keeps us safe. And they also help keep us directed toward our path. So oftentimes when we hit these big milestones and markers, it's because our ego is really pushing us to go there to achieve this alignment with our gifts and our goals. So it's a little bit different than how some people talk to the ego. And we'll come back, there's more about it. Then there is the spiritual body. And you don't have to choose that in any sort of terminology. It's just this acknowledgement that there is something outside of us, whether you use the word universe, God, creation, creator, fill in your own words. There is an aspect of us that is connected to even the law of attraction, shall you? And then there's our inner child, who inner child can happen the moment we are conceived to 5 minutes ago. So your inner child can be, struggling with something that you went through in your 20s. It doesn't necessarily have to be when you are 4, 5, or 6 years old.
That is so. Hold on, I might have missed one. So I got mental, emotional, ego, spiritual, inner child, and then do we have one more in there?
I left one off as I'm going off on the ego tangent. Obviously, our physical body. So it's the most obvious that I get off into the other ones. The physical body is really important to look at separately, because so much manifests through the physical body. It is the most dense, quote unquote, of the bodies as far as energetics are concerned. And 90% of things going on physically have ties in emotional issues, mental situations, spiritual complications, things like that. So the physical body is a really good biofeedback to look at.
That is exceptional. I only recently, I would say within the last 6 months of my life, began to realize that our physical body is giving us biofeedback. I actually was at a firewalking experience that I was doing, and when I got done, I had some warm spots on my feet, and so they had a little bit warm. Yeah. And then someone shared with me a link where I could look up reflexology, and they said wherever you have these warm spots actually applies to something like you were able to have the warm spot because your body was shifting weight for a certain reason, because it was compensating for something at a emotional, energetic, spiritual level. That's the reason you were putting so much weight in a very specific part of your foot. That was mind blowing to me to realize that, holy crap, our physical ailments are biofeedback. Um,
Absolutely. It's
yeah.
mind blowing. I remember going through acupuncture school and we learned about the microcosm in the ear. And so if you were to like turn a picture of a fetus upside down, it places perfectly in the ear to where these acupuncture points correspond. And it was just like, oh my word. And you really can do this on many places of your body. So our body is the micro and the macro, and it's amazing what it gives us. And so like having these introductions to this information, we've all heard mind body soul connection, but I always had this thing inside of me, and like, what does that actually mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I
Mm-hmm.
really connect my mind, body, and soul? And when it is connected, how do I know? And so that's where I came into learning about the 6 aspects. That really was that deeper dive to understanding some of my behaviors, some of my patterns, some of my habits, some of the things that weren't happening though I wanted them to, and was curious as to why. So it's
Can
really
we
mind blowing.
can we talk about ego a little bit?
Yeah. So
Okay,
I
good.
love working with my ego, and I've always grown up knowing you check your ego at the door. It's not a savory thing to have an ego. We want to I had this knowledge, this idea that being without ego was like the most Zen thing to be, but this is like cutting off a part of you. We all have that. And the more I thought about that, I was like, wait a minute, how can I put the best part of me forward if the rest of it's hanging out back there? Like the best part of me is when I'm whole and complete, right? So it was kind of conflicting in these ideas. And so I've learned to befriend my ego. And so
Mm.
I often ask my ego to participate as a curious student. That way, she's on board with what I'm doing. She's been the one who's really helped me hone my channeling gifts, my psychic gifts, should you put a label on it, all of my achievements. And the more that she's involved, the more that I can go forward because she feels like I'm safe to do it. Like my person's safe, she can go forward. And by asking your ego to participate as a curious student, they are not going to like throw those sticks in your spoke, so to speak, because they understand that you are safe. They're seeing what's going on.
I love, love, love that. This is that's why I had to go to. I'm like, let's talk about ego. I love the
Yeah.
subject of ego in the sense of, and I love how you presented that. I very magical. I ask my ego to participate. Whew. I tell people, because I too, once upon a time on the journey, thought no ego is the Zen. I don't have no, and then I started realizing, people would say, I don't have no pride, I don't have no ego, and I'm like, well, that makes you a really good person, but we can't do business together because you'll put anything out of the window.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, yeah. Our ego, our pride is that like our pride in our work. Like, hey, I can't. That's not done yet. I'm not putting my name on that.
Yeah.
That's what allows us to. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love how you put that.
Ah, thanks. No, it's really helpful, especially when we're trying to navigate like a new situation, right? Say we're starting a new business, we're in a new relationship, we're in a place of uncharted territory. Things can get a little bit scary, or we come up to some place where maybe we've had some trauma in the past and we're really nervous about how it's going to go this time. And so, really getting that ego involved in this place that you're at is going to assist you in looking at what really is in front of you rather than what you might be fearing is in front of you or imagining is in front of you. It's going to allow that true essence to show itself.
Can we talk about my second? Well, I'm going to say my second favorite one.
Perfect.
For today, it is um, emotion.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
so I can't wait to hear your aspect, and the same thing as ego, on my journey, I'm just sharing my projections or my experiences on my journey. There was a time where I thought, well, there was a time that I was like really good. Like if there was like a prize, I was close to first place with anger and like did really good with it. Like I knew that program. So there was. And then there was a time in my journey where I associated anger, well, emotions, all emotions to me were anger once upon a time on my
Yeah.
journey. Emotions
Of
equal to
course.
anger. And then somewhere on my healing journey, anger became bad. And because anger became bad, emotions were bad.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. We've then come back around to starting accepting our emotions. What can you share with people that are having their own journey similar to that?
Oh my God, that is such a common journey. And we want to numb out. We want to cut off that aspect of it because it's either too much, it's deemed as bad, it's deemed as negative. Emotions aren't anything, it's the experience we attach to it. They are not positive or negative. And in fact, when you do have those rushing bits of anger coming up, it is so good to let them out because of what they can do while they're kept in. The thing about our emotional body is they're like the workhorse, right? So anything we do that gets we're disappointed, and we often like reflect on ourselves more than an external disappointment, right? Like, oh, I didn't quite do what I wanted to, I should be better, I should be this. Your emotional body is the one like running all of this is not a mental thought, this is like an actual emotional bit, the way we feel about ourselves. It's not the way we think about ourselves, it's the way we feel about ourselves, right? So your emotional body's like running a marathon all the time if you haven't tapped in to that beacon, we'll call it, of feelings you have for yourself in the background. And then something comes up, someone's driving down the road and cuts you off, and you're like this close to, reaching out the window and punching them. And you're like, oh, what really happened? So the emotional body has to handle this sort of long haul, and then they get these short spikes of emotion that come up. It's really important to have this check in with your emotional body and allow it to show you what it needs, where it's at, what it's feeling. And this can be very, very helpful to know that, okay, so your emotional body is trying to get your attention through anger. How would it
Hmm.
like to
Hmm.
have an outlet? What is a proper outlet for that? What's popping in my head right now, what seems to be really trendy, I saw on a show and then early on Facebook, is like axe throwing. I was like, wow, that would feel really nice, to an emotional body who's prone to anger, something like that. Yeah, exactly. Like having those big, loud expressions so your emotional body can keep the frequency of the energy, so to speak, but get that anger out and let you know what is underneath. There's always something underneath. Anger is just anger is the lava of the volcano. It's not the actual volcano itself. So
And I love that you said that. And when we have, and by the way, I'm only speaking from experience, talking about a friend. When we have a lot of anger, or when I had a lot of anger, it was I didn't realize till afterwards, and I want to share. It's to say evidence that, I mean, that is a label, but I want to use a different label. It is an opportunity for us to realize that, oh, there's a lot of things underneath that need to be healed.
mhm. Yeah,
The anger
absolutely.
is there as like, the reason why anger is there is because these things were anger is keeping us safe because
Mhm.
these things were so traumatic when we experienced them, but we're no longer 7 years old.
Right, absolutely.
Go ahead, talk about it. Go ahead.
No, it's beautiful, and I love that because we are not taught to process our emotions when we are a child. Not many people are. Let me rephrase that. Not too
Good
many of
point.
us are taught to process our emotion, that emotions are okay. We've have all these sayings in all sorts of cultures: stiff upper lip, big boys don't cry, all of these type of things where we have to shove it down. And now it's becoming more acceptable. So where that 7-year-old can go ahead and cry and be upset and be hurt and find a place of safety and security. So it's not carrying on into your adult life. And when we've run on a program of a traumatic experience, whether we had a tough childhood. I know for me, when I went through my divorce and not being able to, like, just so many variables, I was like a zombie because my emotional body was working over time. And so, what it made me understand is that I had to shift my comfort zone in order to compensate for the work that my emotional body was doing. So, for example, as much as I wanted to like get into my new city and find a new community and meet a bunch of people, like my zone was take my kids to school and hang out on the sofa for the
Hmm.
day
Hmm.
and think about maybe for 5 minutes what my next business step was going to be. But like I just needed to shut down so those emotions could process. And so like your example, if you've got this thing going on for a lifetime, you got to figure out where's your comfort zone with anger, and how can you acceptably bring that into your life in a way that feels safe for you, and understand it's not a bad thing, it's not a negative thing. because you know that there's trauma associated with it, but you have to peel that back very slowly in a way that keeps you safe.
You know, and I love that you said, in a way, peel that back variables, because I'm going to suggest to all of you that you can do this journey on your own.
Mhm.
But oh yeah, it's so much. I mean, if you're freaked out about doing the journey, like that's what a facilitator or a guide is there for. Like that's what they went the journey, and then they're gonna be there to tell you, like, no, no, not the way that it's over here. I know it feels uncomfortable. You're safe. I had the realization, and only within like the last year and a half of my life, and I still have, so like with that realization, I'm excited for the work that I still have left. The realization I had, the only way through our emotions is through our emotions.
Yes.
And so, like, when I think of my childhood, and like plenty of experiences where parents failed, and as an adult, I look back and I think, like, the last 10 years, I just said, oh, I'm okay, it's fine, I didn't need, yeah, that they messed up, like, and I just think that I'm okay, and I just
Mhm.
labeled it because I want to be okay so bad.
Yeah.
But then I started realizing, and I've only just begun this journey, like, let's go back and, like, let's really think about all the reasons we're sad and hurt around our father or mother, me personally.
Mhm.
And then it's like, I'm not okay. Like, you never fucking took me to sports. Like, you
Yeah.
never fucking supported me. Like, you never fucking high-fived me. Like, that really hurts. Like, to think of myself as my inner child not getting that, that hurts. And that allows me to go through and, like, feel it. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sad about that. I didn't get
Yeah.
that. That is very
Yeah.
sad. This allows me to go through this emotion. And on the other side, there is some form of closure for each person to look at the way it does.
It is, and
Um,
it's really beautiful. And knowing so you have this emotional aspect of you, right? You can look at him as outside of you. You can be
there you
the one
go.
extending him the hand and say, God, I see how horribly that hurt you when you didn't get high-fived and didn't get taken to sports. Like, I'm you, I'm here to support you. How can I? So it's like, we can do
Wow.
this on your own. You do need you can have a coach or a guide, somebody to hold your hand, but you can also hold the hands of these aspects of you to
Mm.
help you achieve that wholeness and some healing around it.
And because when we realize, and I'm speaking from self for everyone listening, I'm speaking from self. No books, nothing of that nature. When we get to a place where we realize, like, I am hurt, I didn't get the high fives from dad, I don't like that. That's sad. Now we can own it. Now we're no longer, it's no longer this thing that we're like, ugh, at an
Mhm.
unconscious, and we don't even know what it is. It's just something over there. Now it's part of our story. And now we realize, like, oh shit, I'm going to high five the hell out of my son. Like,
Yeah,
you
it's
open the door,
exactly
high
like,
five.
yeah, yeah, it's great. I love it. And then you like took it to the next step. So we realized we got heard because we heard ourselves saying, you know what, I didn't get that, but I wanted that. What would that fulfilled inside of me? How can I get that now? And
Boom.
so when you can break it down like that, and for you, getting that now is high-fiving your son. That's amazing, right? So you're taking care of this aspect of you that didn't get it, but also knowing you're breaking the gap. Your son's never going to feel that way. So it's a win-win. And it may look different for other people based
Right.
around other trauma, but really pivot that instead of looking back about what you didn't get, you do have to feel it, you do have to acknowledge it, get underneath what would have it fulfilled in you and how can you get it
Oh
now?
my gosh. That is so, so powerful. What would that have fulfilled in you? I mean, if you really process these questions, I mean,
Mhm.
most of you guys listening right now, you might be, I don't know, you might be watching us on YouTube, or you might be listening to us in a car, and you're hearing what we're saying, but there's a few words I really want to recap. I really want to anchor into you. Like, really process for a minute. What would that have fulfilled inside of you? I mean,
Yeah,
for
and go deep.
myself, I probably would have been able to feel more worthy.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have the programming of trying to do things to gain worth.
Mhm.
Oh, well, that's just a problem. Oh, then Morgan, you take it the next step further. How do I fulfill that now?
Mhm.
Just because it wasn't fulfilled then, so what? The
Yeah.
clock's still ticking. Are we really just committing to the rest? Like, that didn't get filled then, so we're just going to go without forever? Let's
No,
fill that puppy up now.
totally.
I love that. Yeah, Morgan, I love that. That's powerful.
because that's going to change you going forward, right? You're going to be filled up in a different way that's going to shift your vibration, shift your frequency. It's taking you steps closer to what you've wanted and needed as a soul. And that's a powerful place to create from.
And think about when you say like I was talking to my wife about this. This was literally like 2 days ago. We were picking up some fireworks for the 4th, and my wife picked up. So it's just this year. It'll just be me, her, and our son. I think that's all it's going to be. I think.
Beautiful.
So 2 boys, 1 girl, and my wife picks up this like big old like it looks like an ice cream. It's like pink and dazzly, and she's like, "What do you think about this?" And I'm thinking to myself like my first thought is like, we wouldn't like, it's a girl thing. Like that's all right.
Yeah.
But my immediate thought goes to, there's something that attracted her to that.
Yeah.
And then I said to her, I said, "Oh, we can get it if you want." I said, "Babe, let me ask you this." I said, "Would you have gotten that when you're?" She said, "I would have loved to had this when I was a kid." I was like, "Even better. Let's get it now."
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you acknowledge that, because it's like, I find those things in my kids too. Like, they freaking love the shoes with lights. I think they're the worst things in the world, but they light up their world. And I cannot tell you how many people I have talked to that were like, God, all I ever wanted when I was little was shoes with lights. And my parents wouldn't buy them for me. And I was like, you know what? Go for it.
Let's
Like,
do
if
it.
it
Yeah.
makes it, if it's like it spoke to her, right? Like, it
Right.
sung to something inside of her, that her inner child was like, ooh, pink sparkly ice cream. I want that.
Well, and we create these overlays. It happens at an unconscious level. It happens
Totally.
at an unconscious level, but we create these overlays. Like my wife, I feel congruent. Like a conscious thought didn't go through her head. Unconscious level, in a flash,
Mhm.
the thought happened. You're an adult. You can't do that.
Totally.
Watch me. We'll buy 2 of them.
Yeah, and that's why I love bringing these aspects forward, because it takes that unconscious bolt, and there's a pause, and it allows it to be conscious, so you can start thinking about like that, hey, watch this, we'll buy 2. So
Yeah.
it gives you that shift between all of this junk running behind you, still running the show, and it gives you the chance to make some choices in a different way.
And the 100%, and the realization, like for everyone listening, whatever your inner child didn't get, it is like, to me, it has been really cool and extremely fun that, like, as to me, like, I almost think to myself, like, how cool is it that I get to have my inner child in my 30s and my 40s?
I
Like,
know.
because
Yeah.
no one, like, I can go buy whatever I want to buy. Like if I, like I can
Yeah.
do whatever I want to do. You can, all of the parts where your inner child was not cared for,
Yeah.
care. Morgan, thank you so much. Care for you. You said it. Hold your hand.
Mhm.
Care for you. Like you can fill that in for your inner child. Your inner child's not gone. It's you. It's still
Right.
here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So as we're on inner child, I'll expand on it a little bit,
Please.
because they are really connected to the emotional body, and our inner child can reveal so much to us. So like, oftentimes I will just call her forward and see what age she shows up as. Maybe she's a teenager. Maybe she's in my 30s. Maybe, she was on my 40th birthday. I don't know. And see what she wants to tell me. And the more that I understand what her needs, wants, wishes, and or disappointments were, the more I can have some input and value into what I'm choosing to do and how I can care for her. And
Mm.
I always tell her, you know what? I'm here for you. I am you. I'm here to take care of you. I love you. I tell her how beautiful she is, whatever I feel like she needs to hear. And I know it can be a harder place for some men to get to, but it's so important
Mm.
to tell your inner child that you are them, you love them, give them that hug you didn't get, male or female, give them that
Mm.
kiss on the forehead, give them that high five, whatever type of connection they're feeling down about. Because what can happen is that aspect of you, and any of these aspects, can be frozen in these moments where we had some trauma. And so the more we go back and collect these aspects, the less that trauma is going to be so prevalent for us. And the inner child is so key.
That is powerful, powerful. That leaves us with, well, we've definitely honed in on emotion. We've honed in on ego. We've honed in on inner child. We've definitely touched base on physical body. I'm not sure if we have more there, and we may have left the most powerful one. We still have spirituality to talk about.
We do. We have actually my favorite two, spirituality and mental. We'll leave the mental for last because that's a,
Oh, and mental. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
I was one who missed one of the first counts, so we're all
Yeah,
even.
yeah.
So, yeah, the
Yeah.
spiritual body. Let's go there.
Okay.
The spiritual body is magnificent. And whether people like to acknowledge or not, there is something beyond us. Like there's absolutely this aspect of us. I mean, dreams even. There are your spiritual body is bringing in information from your unconscious mind. So you don't have to think of it in terms of what you believe and what name you give it. Let's talk unconscious and conscious mind to level the playing field. All of those things running in your unconscious mind, they can hold your soul's blueprint, they can hold your life's purpose, your mission. They hold things that want to come forward to be healed. They hold things that want to you want to achieve, and steps that you need to take, the answers to what you're trying to, the questions you're asking, right? Like when we ask those deep questions, they land in that unconscious mind before they come forward. So the more that you can connect with your spiritual body, the more they can come forward and you can have this understanding. All spiritual practices, like every single one of us is intuitive, every single one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so in order to understand more your tuition, it's just a practice. It's like you don't go into a yoga class for the first time and do a handstand. No, you work your way up to that. So
Yesterday I said to my wife, that is so powerful. We were literally talking about the word intuitive, and I said to my wife, eh, I said the word intuitive, and I don't know, my wife may have already understood that word, but I just thought I saw like a little bit of curiosity. And so I said to her, I said, it's like psychic, but more so now it's, it's intuitive, which I like. And I told her, I like that label intuitive more, because you're just sharing what you
mhm,
heard or felt or saw. Like you're not saying this is what it is. You're like, you sat in front of me. Here's what came to me. I don't know, you know? And,
absolutely.
and I was sharing with my wife, I said, I literally said yesterday, I said, everyone actually is intuitive. Some people don't have the gall to sit in front of them and share what they saw. And so they're not called to do it.
Yeah, that is the biggest thing, is the relationship of trust with your intuition. So one part of the definition of intuition is that you cannot rationalize it and you don't need to.
Don't
So
need to.
let yourself off that hook. You do not have to justify why see, think, feel, or whatever see, think, or feel. Just trust it. And two, I like to say that intuition is the soul's language. So the more that you can sense it, see it, feel it, know it, hear it, smell it, you're going to connect with that and know that it's okay to express your intuition as an aspect of you.
And think about, like, as crazy as, well, I use the label crazy, and it's just my label.
I
As
know.
as as crazy, like, we're so conditioned. We're
Mhm.
so conditioned to use our words, which are just sounds or labels. We're so conditioned to that it can sound like, in this day and age, we're like talking about intuitive and intuition. For some people, I mean, obviously intuitives are like, yeah, of course I get it. But for some people, they're like, I just want you to think back, as our species, there was a time where we didn't communicate with each other using labels.
Yeah,
But all the communication was going down. We made it to today. I
I
mean,
know, but it's still part
we
of
were
that, like that.
advancing the entire time too. Go ahead. Forgive me. Go ahead.
No, sorry. Yeah, you're right, because it's still part of that reptilian brain. We have like animal instinct, right? And so our instincts have just shifted. We don't need to understand or follow our senses about where the animal is, the food is, how to make fire.
Where
We have
water
so
is.
much, yeah, we have so much coming at us now that we get these hits of sitting in front of somebody, and we all can walk into a room and discern, is this a place I want to be, or is this place I never want to come back again? Like
Mm,
that's your intuition speaking to you.
mm. 100%, 100%. And thinking about, like, those that are still, like, curious to, if you haven't gotten in tune with your intuition yet, if you have a desire to, and you're kind of wondering, again, we'll take it back to cave time. Like, they had no map, no GPS. No one was going to tell them that we think water is over there. This is how we can reason why there might be water over there. They literally had to look out there and say, I'm called to go over there. I have no clue why, but this is where we're going to start walking. And family, you're going with me, and you'll just die if I'm wrong.
Yeah, totally. And they would make assessments and assumptions based on what they saw and what patterns happen. I mean, think about weather. I mean, winter, as somebody who lived in a cave, terrifying, yet they were always prepared. They knew it was coming. They were able to follow their instincts to track the season. That is always the one thing that's like most mind-blowing to me.
Yeah. Well, how we're slightly off subject, but let's do it.
We're still
Just
there.
how yeah, we are how it's um it's crazy how advanced we were back then.
Yeah,
We are technologically, if I said that word, technologically,
got it.
we're way more advanced with technology now, of course, and that'll continue to evolve us into something we'll see. But man, as far as like I was looking at something the other last night, I think, and it was there was a gentleman that was found 1991, 1994, I'm not sure. He was found completely frozen, like with all his gear and everything. And so it
Yeah.
was a documentary on him. And so he was about 6,000 years old from
Mhm.
carbon dating on him. And in that area, they were able to find tombs, which they were talking about prior to this. Like this gentleman had all of his equipment. So they were going through like the things that he carried, and which was wild. Like his whole, everything he needed was with him. So whether it was fire, food, repairing clothes, literally was on him. And then it was crazy to think they talked about how when we look at spirituality, when we first started, we didn't quite spirituality wasn't as important as eating, procreating, and shelter.
Right.
Okay, so when you died in the beginning, you died and we just kept moving. It was over.
Mhm.
But eventually, we started discerning some form of spirituality. And even at 6,000 years ago, they were creating these stone little things where they would put you. So there was some form of permanency. So you
Yes.
didn't just go away, your soul, like there was a window in this thing. And 6,000 years ago, they figured out, they figured this out without words, which I would suggest spirituality. And oh, by the way, how the hell did you get the rock on top of the tomb 6,000 years ago?
Yeah, and see, this is the thing, like, if you do shift that, and I love this example because they did have rituals, like in all of these areas, there's a form of spirituality, yet their intuition was so plugged in. It was do or die for them. So they did not need as much spirituality as we do now, where we are so
Unplugged. Yeah.
disconnected. We're so caught up in the collective chaos that we have the luxury to ignore our intuition and not be harmed, not perish, not go without food. And so it's created this confusion for us because then we're caught in this trap of, well, shit, I don't know how to trust my intuition again because the last 3 times I picked a boyfriend, it went really bad. Or
Right.
last time my boss said this and I did that, I got fired. Like we lose that trust because it's not about survivability.
Yep. That is so powerful. And I want to hone in on losing that when we have those things happen. I also suggest I was sharing with a client the other day, when we lose touch with ourselves, these are just my labels and words that I'm using, but when we lose touch with ourselves, our spirituality, when we lose touch with that, we can sometimes confuse other voices for self or for spirit or for a higher. And but what I can assure you from my experience and from everyone that I've ever had the privilege of working with is when you get in touch with yourself, you will know every time with complete and total conviction that that voice is you or it is not.
Absolutely.
There would be
100%.
no wonder. So when you make your connection, there will
Mm,
never be a wonder again, and the heart will never steer you the wrong place. So even if the
absolutely.
situation doesn't pan out based on how you valued the situation, that's only your value. You're in the right place. Keep moving.
Absolutely. And the way to speed yourself up there is as you're connecting, always ask to work with the highest vibrational guides, always ask to work with the guides from the highest light.
I'm writing that down.
Um,
Keep going.
yeah, because there are realms, we will call them, where information can come in that is lower vibrating, or you interact with the narcissist and it mucks up your energy field, and that
Hmm
lower vibrational entity or spirit, we'll call them, that
hmm
guide out there who is not of the highest light can feed people information. So I always just clean the slate, ask to work as you're setting your intentions, as you're tuning into
Intentions.
your intuition, just, hey, you know what? I'm sending this off to the highest guides.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. And for everyone listening, it's a big thing. I want to just, for everyone not listening, go get them. So I thought about what I said for everyone listening. Well, of course, this is for the people.
Such a common phrase, but
Right,
yeah,
right.
cool.
Um, Let me see. I slightly, intent. So you, when Morgan asks for her highest guides, these are the labels that she chooses to use.
Mhm.
You may or may not have different labels when you ask for blank. The blank is, and more, I just want to super double, triple, quintuple down on what is your intent on when you're asking for something? Are you
Mine.
actually seeking? Oh, no, oh, no. I'm saying that more
Ah,
rhetorical. Forgive me. Like
gotcha,
meaning
gotcha,
like
gotcha.
what the labels you
Yeah,
used. If
yeah,
someone
yeah.
says I don't, that
Absolutely.
those labels are just your intent.
Yes.
And so I say that to say, for everyone, I think your intent is highly. Wayne Dyer wrote a book. I think it's called Intention or the Power of Intention. I mean,
Yes.
intent is just insane. Everything we do, I think we should consciously set an intent.
It's true.
Someone asked me one time, a mentor a couple of years back. They said, why do you want to be a motivational speaker?" And I said, why I want to help people. Well, of course you do, and that's good. But why do you want to be a motivational speaker? Well, I don't want people to have to go through what I went through. I get what you're saying, but Greg, I'm asking you why you want to be a motivational speaker. There's a reason. And so it took a little processing, and
Mhm.
he was a great mentor, and it was uncomfortable too.
Very.
But we got to a place where we realized, because internally, like, what was my intent? What did I actually like? What was, no, I don't want people to go through what I went through. And yes, it's going to feel good to help them, but there's something inside that I'm going to benefit.
Totally.
And where I was going to benefit, and it took like some deep, like, y'all, it took some deep, you know what I'm saying? You got to, like, you don't have to have a guide, but you got to be willing to go there. And what I realized is that this was about 2 years ago when I had this conversation with a mentor. I didn't feel like, I realized I had the epiphany that people applauding me, cheering for me after I spoke gave me value,
Mm.
which would mean in the absence of them applauding, I had no value or
Ah,
lower value because I needed this to increase my value so that I could feel worthy.
that's a really powerful understanding, because then that gives you a place to look at where you might have needed some support around defining success and value, or redefining success and value.
And then I can also determine that my intent is not actually to be a motivational speaker,
Mhm.
which, sorry to spoil it for you guys, I'll still be one. My intent is
The byproduct.
simply to feel value or to establish my self-love.
Yes.
But until I went on that journey, I couldn't realize it. I say all that to say, when you're asking your spirituality, when you're asking the universe, when you're asking your higher power for whatever you're asking for, why are you asking for that? What is your intent? What are you looking to achieve? Go ahead, Morgan. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely, it's intent is everything. It's beautiful. And the deeper you dig, like you did, it brought you to a very, very powerful understanding.
And again, I got to give a lot of credit to mentors. A gentleman, he lives in South Africa, and he's been on his journey for just a couple days. So he, he's a
Love it.
really really wise gentleman. And like I said, I was like, when he was taking me through this, because he was lovingly pushing on me.
Mhm.
I was like, anger. I was really good at anger, so I was like getting frustrated with this human. And on the opposite side, it's been 2.5 years. Like, I message him periodically. I'm like, thank you so much for taking me through that.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you
It's
for
one of
not
those
bailing.
it makes you fluster, but that's why having a really, really strong, confident guide, mentor to walk you through these really sticky parts, like, these are where breakthrough comes through.
Yeah.
Most of us cannot push ourselves into a breakthrough. We need to have somebody who's been through it and on the other side to assist us.
And we've talked about it a bunch of times. And to create that space where we know that,
Mhm.
as uncomfortable and as ugly and as messy as this gets, we're here. It's controlled. You're safe. If you
Yeah,
choose, we're going there, and it's okay. Because
safety is
you're
so
a good
important.
your guide is. And when we talk about, for those listening, some of you understand, and some are like, create a safe space, like, do we like putting up scissors? uh, it's really about energetically creating a safe space, and you understanding, like, are you in a safe space? Well, if you feel it, you are, and if you don't feel it, you're not.
Yeah,
Do you feel accepted,
right.
or do you feel judged? And however
Mhm.
you feel is the feedback. Don't have a conversation about it. You got all your information.
Totally. And this is what a really valid point of which you can assure these aspects of yourself that you are safe. So if you have an aspect who is really stuck in anger, is really stuck in fear, is really stuck in wherever, continue to assure them that they are safe. They are with you, they are safe. And that does create a shift in environment internally.
That's powerful. All right, take us home with, it sounds like your favorite.
I know. My favorite because it tends to be the most bossy and the mental
the,
body. I freaking love the mental body. The
the
mental
loudest, at least, right? Or no, maybe emotion's the
totally.
loudest. I don't know, but go
No,
ahead.
this one's pretty loud. I mean, especially
Okay.
for me, because I am a scientist, so I have like a science mind, right? But so many people try and think their way through because they don't want to feel it, right? Like you were talking about. So we're going to think our way through transitions. We're going to think our way through a problem. We're going to do all of this thinking, yet we're not really focused on what it is that we want to achieve. And so this mental body can have all sorts of chatter that kind of just makes so much noise. And we can, like you were talking about, if you get mixed messages, so maybe your spiritual body is dropping something in on you and your mind's going, yeah, that's just bullshit, like you're making that up. Your mind can have this negative chatter where you might be feeling very confident, but then you're hearing this doubt in your head and you're not feeling it, you're hearing it. You're hearing maybe old words that somebody said to you around something you're trying to accomplish, maybe your dad, maybe your mom, maybe a bully at
Mm,
school. These words can be held in this mental body, and we get confused about what are our words and what we really think about ourselves
mm.
versus what these external thoughts are. So
Yeah, I,
getting a lot.
oh, good.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I got
Good
excited.
question.
There's a book that is well worth reading. Have you read The Untethered Soul, Morgan, by chance?
I have not, but it's on my list.
It's worth a read, worth a read. And so I'm gonna say my takeaway from that book. And oddly enough, it's when you guys read that book, you might be like, how the heck did he get that takeaway? But we all get our own takeaways. And so he talks about, the book is a way more in depth than what I'm going to share, but this is my takeaway. These are my, and you might not even find this. He says, like, he creates the awareness in this book that, and until I read this book, I actually, like, I was like, we kind of know this, but it was like a real, like, oh, it's real. Our mind, like, if we literally listen to our thoughts for just 30 seconds, holy crap. If you do it for 2 minutes, I promise you're going to start being wondering, like, are you sane?
Yeah.
2 minutes. Oh,
Totally.
by the way, every minute your mind is doing that, how many minutes have you been alive?
Yeah.
Our mind is like a neurotic child that will not be quiet for a single second.
Yeah.
What he talks about in The Untethered Soul is the realization. So now I don't know who had the job of carrying the ticker around, but supposedly we have around 90,000 thoughts a day,
Right,
and
right,
like
right.
85% of them are just negative and neurotic.
Yeah.
So based on that information, what he says in this book is, like, when these thoughts come through, stop friggin' marrying them. Just let them pass. Don't, like, to wonder why. Like, if you have a thought about a lamb and you think, huh, that thought goes away, and then maybe a horse comes in and you're like, look at that. And that thought goes away, and then a pig comes in and you're like, I wonder why I'm thinking about a pig. Was it because I thought about a lamb and a horse first and we just brought them back in the picture? And we start, and then we start creating a reality out of it because we start challenging ourselves and try to figure out, why do we have this thought? The answer is, you have this thought just because you're a human, and we all have 90,000 thoughts a day, and 85% of them are neurotic and negative.
Yeah. And
Go
I
ahead.
think
Yeah.
somewhere in there, there's a percentage of the same thoughts we think every day. It's like we don't
Yeah.
even get original with our neuroses. Like it's the same thing on repeat. It's like,
Those
it's insane.
tapes. Yeah.
Yeah. So like having a practice to kind of witness your thoughts where you do
Yes.
just kind of step back and let them through. This is where I love to practice a bit of the art of surrender. So if you've got a complication, you've got a problem, something in your life that you don't have a solution to, surrender it to
Mm.
the higher place, wherever you want to put it, you cannot think your way through it. A new perspective cannot show up if you are thinking about the same thing over and over and over. You're not going to see a new perspective. Surrender it, allow it to leave your mind. Like he's saying in this book, let it pass. So a new thought, a new perspective, a new opportunity can come in.
Last night, so powerful that you said that. Last night I was working on recreating or restructuring a sales graphic that I have going out, and um, this will be the third revision we've done. So we put it out, we got some data, we did a revision. Now I'm interpreting data, and now where do we go with it? And so I started thinking about like, well, we could do this and we could do that. Maybe we should do it. And so within like 30 minutes, if it took me that long, I was like, holy crap, we are like way into like, we have like just buried ourselves in incongruency here. And I mean, like, holy smokes. I was like, whoa, where's the way out? And I literally, I like what you said. You gave labels to the experience. So it is now going to be duplicatable for me. I didn't quite even realize what I was doing, but I literally said, I thought to myself, and I don't know what labels I used when I thought to myself, but the idea was that we're not going to figure this out tonight. Wrap it up right now.
Yeah.
And I went in and helped my wife with something, and like literally told myself it will come to you when it's supposed to. Like, you're on the right mission, it'll come to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to be doing something random like mowing your lawn, or, it's going to come in because you're not so fixated on it. It has this chance to be detached from this mental process.
I love it. And again, I love that you now gave it labels. So for me, that means now I know what it is and I can do. Like when I get in that
Yeah.
place, I automatically know like surrender is going to pop up to me every time now.
Totally. And it's such a powerful exercise to surrender something, whether you're trying to find a house, you're feeling overwhelmed because the housing market's crazy and you can't find your one. You know what? Surrender the process. There is a house out there for you. Like, don't get caught up in that
There
chaos.
could not be.
No,
Keep going. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So,
I love this.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So everyone that was listening to us on the audio, check us out on YouTube. You can watch the video at Success After Trauma. We're going to have some links on there so you can connect with Morgan. Morgan is a practitioner of Akashic Records. Now, we didn't talk about Akashic Records today. I'm going to allow Morgan here in just a moment if you would just give a little commercial of what that is so people can understand. We also did a part 1 of this series. So if you look back a couple weeks, there's a part 1 with Morgan, and we go over in depth the Akashic Records, as well as I share a little bit about my experience that I had as Morgan guided me to the records to get some answers for myself. So if you're looking to connect with Morgan, Morgan is a practitioner of Akashic Records. Now, that is a modality that she works out of. Morgan is so much bigger than the Akashic Records, as she is a human. She is an energy being. So listening to her message today, if she is someone that you remember, we talked about felt safe with, someone that you feel like that you're going to be seen, heard, and felt, connect and healing your trauma. Again, as we talked about, you're capable of doing this yourself. It's actually always and only you.
Yes.
It's actually only ever you. However, it's powerful when you can have I use the term guide, facilitator. I really like those words. It is very powerful when you can have someone guide you through. Because think about this, everyone. If I was to give you directions, if I was to write down directions for you to get to somewhere that's 500 miles away, eventually you can get there. Let's assume there's no GPS. Eventually you can get there. And along the way, you'll probably get lost. And you're going to have to stop, and you're going to have to ask for directions. And sometimes some of these people are going to give you directions that are the wrong way. They don't mean to, they don't know, they just want to provide help. So they're going to take you even further off course, and you're going to have to stop and ask for more directions. And then you're going to find out you're off course, and you're going to feel defeated. But if you continue the course no matter what, eventually you'll arrive at this place 500 miles away. Eventually, as long as you just continue, you're capable of doing that yourself. Now imagine if I gave you the directions in an electronic GPS Not only would it tell you step by step where you need it to go, but it would tell you ahead of schedule what your next move is. That's what a guide is on the journey. You can get there by yourself. You may get lost along the way. Some people are going to give you the wrong advice on accident, and you still can get there if that's what you're committed to doing. If you want to just get there right now and move on with life, it's time to find a guide. Morgan, would you share a little bit? Would you tell everyone verbally, for those just listening in, a link? What is the link where people can connect with you? And then would you just speak to those? So I want you to share a message with those that have experienced past trauma. Now, I use the label trauma. So
Mhm.
if I were to remove that label, would you share a message with people that have had past experiences that now play out unfavorably for them? And would you
Absolutely.
share this message with them through a lens of well, I want to say what, actually, I just want to stop there. Will you just share a message with them
Yeah.
of inspiration on what they can do with their future?
Absolutely. And I love how you talked about, I love the message about the 500 miles and then giving them the GPS. I love talking about the Akashic records in terms of folding time, because when you are using a guide, whether it be the records, a powerful mentor, they're going to help you get where you want to go in an expedited fashion. And so when we have had these experiences that keep us in these moments of maybe repeating patterns, and it's mostly on a subconscious level that we're doing this because these aspects of us are scattered through these experiences. Some are frozen there, some have not gotten what they have, some are totally undiscovered. We may feel like one aspect of us is out of balance, but it's really another one who's trying to tell us something. And if we don't break it apart and look at ourselves in all of these six facets, it can keep anybody who's had any sort of experience really frozen and feeling like that's what they're worth. They're not worth anything else. Things can't change. And the truth is, everyone is able to heal. Everyone deserves to be in their own power and their own worth. And anything they desire to manifest is possible. It does take strength and it does take courage. And I have to agree with you that having a really safe and trusting guide to hold your hand through these moments where we have these breakthroughs, like your experience you shared, is so critical, because it's really hard to push ourselves there and feel safe. So I just invite anyone who is even the littlest bit curious about what their life might look like without some of the constriction of their previous experiences, please choose a guide, please choose a mentor, someone you feel safe with. Help is out there. New possibilities are available.
That's exceptional. I appreciate it, Morgan. Will you go ahead and those that want to connect with you, is it morganrockwell.com? Is that correct?
Yes, perfect. Sorry, I forgot that part. I was so into the channel message. I forgot to
Good,
link
good.
that.
That's what
So,
they that's the
yeah.
that's what they needed. That's what they needed. For
Yeah.
those of you listening in, you can connect with Morgan. It's morganrockwell.com. If you're listening to the audio, again, check us out YouTube. You can watch the video. If you're watching our beautiful faces on YouTube, you can download us from your favorite podcast streaming platform. That way you can listen to us in the car. Don't forget to tell your friends about Success After Trauma. And until the next episode, be great. It's already in you.